In this video, we're going to take a look at drawing a landscape sketch with charcoal pencils. We'll first plan the composition with charcoal pencils, then we'll add a layer of powdered charcoal to give it a smoky appearance, then we'll add the details, and lastly, we'll erase out the highlights. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll begin by very loosely sketching out the composition using a charcoal pencil. I'm working on Strathmore drawing paper for this demonstration, but any drawing surface will suffice. I'm just looking at the areas of contrast that happen in the photo reference. In other words, I'm looking where dark values and light values meet, and I'm drawing a line to indicate those locations. I'm not trying to be too precise with my marks. Instead, I'm just lightly making marks where I think the objects may exist. Sometimes beginning artists feel like they need to draw all of the details right from the start in a drawing. This isn't really the case. We want to try to figure out the positions of the objects here initially, so loose and light marks are totally acceptable. As the drawing progresses, we'll start to add details and get more controlled with our marks. I'll give some indication of some of the plant life that exists around the trees, in this case on a small hill, and I will add just a couple indications of tree branches here as well. In areas where I'm more confident about the locations of objects, I'll put a bit more pressure on the charcoal pencil, making some of the areas a bit darker. Now that we've got our initial sketch on the paper, we'll add a bit of powdered charcoal. This is a loose, pulverized form of charcoal that can be applied with a brush. In this case, I'm using a mop brush, a very soft mop brush, to work the charcoal into the surface. This will get us some initial value on the surface, helping us to push the dark values or shades and the light values, the tints, so that we can have a full range of value in the finished drawing. The light source is originating from the left side in this image. This means that the coarse shadows are going to exist mainly on the right side of the objects. As I add marks, I'm thinking about the cross contours of the object. As I'm adding them to the branches and the trunk of the tree, they should flow with the direction that the trunk of the tree or the branches grow. The same is true for the marks that are made on the hillside and in the grass. In this case, as the hill turns downward, I'll try to make my marks indicate that. To create the illusion of leaves in the tree, I'm going to make small circles with the charcoal pencil. We want to create the illusion of the texture that is perceived instead of actually drawing each individual leaf. The value in these areas will vary. Some areas will be darker and some areas will be lighter in value. We can also pull out a few marks here and there around the edges to indicate individual leaves. We'll continue working on various locations on the tree, continuing this mark-making process of creating small circles for the leaves and more strong, defined lines for the branches. Lines made for the branches of the tree will change direction abruptly. This will make the branches appear more realistic. In some areas, the groupings of leaves are visible behind the trunk and branches of the tree. In other areas, the groupings of leaves are visible overlapping the branches and the trunk. As we work, we are aware of this, working the trunk and the groupings of trees as we go. We'll also give some indication of the grass and other plants that exist around the bottom of the trees as well. I've placed a paper towel underneath the palm of my hand to prevent any unwanted smearing from occurring. As you work, you may notice that the palm of your hand will come in contact with areas of charcoal, and this will lead to unwanted smearing. To prevent this, just place another sheet of paper or paper towel underneath your hand. Keep in mind that the groupings of leaves do have light and shadow associated with them. The bottom portions of the groupings of leaves will be darker in value, and the lighter areas will exist on the top and sides. This might be obvious, but the branches do taper and get smaller towards the ends. Use the tip of the charcoal pencil to achieve these detailed marks. We'll continue this process on the other trees that exist on the right side of the image. We can also vary the marks that are made to indicate the plant life and grass that exist underneath them. Keep in mind that we're creating an illusion when we're creating a drawing. That means we're concentrating on the textures, values, lines, and shapes, and so on that we see in the photo reference. We're trying to make a copy of that in our drawing. If you get the lines, shapes, textures, values, and so on correct in your drawing, the illusion will appear in your drawing. Working our way across will indicate some shadow that's cast on the road and the hillside on the left portion of the drawing. We'll also start to develop some of the trees that exist further off in the distance. The further away the object is, the lighter in value it will appear. Objects that are closer are darker in value. We want to create this illusion in the final drawing. The tree on the left is a different species from some of the other trees that we've developed. This means that we'll change the texture on this tree to create this illusion. The marks that are created to create this illusion are slightly different. It's okay to vary a bit from your photo reference. You can add more things if you like. You can change the light source or the intensity of the contrast. It's up to you. You're the artist. Don't ever feel tied to a photo reference unless, of course, you're doing a portrait or something of that nature. With a landscape drawing, there's a lot of freedom to make changes in what you want to communicate in your final drawing. We'll make the right side of this tree just a bit darker to indicate the light source. And then with a sharpened charcoal pencil, we'll go in and start to indicate some of the branches that are visible between the leaves. Again, this tree is a different species, so the branches grow differently than the trees that we've done previously. We'll add a bit of value to some of the plant life that exists on the bottom portion of the picture plane. Again, we'll vary the texture to create this illusion. Next, we can address the highlights or the lighter values that exist in the drawing. In this case, I'm going to use a vinyl eraser to erase out these highlights. I'm using a vinyl eraser that's encased within a pencil. This allows me to sharpen it to a tip and make marks like I would as if I was drawing with a pencil. We'll lift out all the areas of lighter value. This includes the highlighted portions on the trees and the plants, as well as the lighter areas of the sky around the trees and the plants. We can always go back and make adjustments and add darker values. Of course, we'll need to erase out areas where the sky is visible through breaks in the trees. Doing this really pushes the contrast. We'll also erase out portions of filtered light that are making it through the canopy of the trees. Always think of your eraser as a mark-making tool instead of a mistake corrector. We'll continue to erase out areas of lighter value as they are observed in the photo reference. Of course, we want the upper left-hand corner of the image to be as light as possible. A few more breaks in the trees are added. Now we can go back with the charcoal pencil and clean up the drawing. We'll add a few more branches and a few more groupings of leaves. We don't want the breaks in the trees to look unnatural, so using the charcoal pencil we can clean up these areas. We'll continue working, pushing some of the darker values a bit darker. This, in turn, will push the value range, resulting in a full range of dark and light values. We can also revisit areas with the eraser as well. Lastly, I'll take a blending stump and just smooth out the road surface so the texture is a bit different. And then our landscape sketch with charcoal pencils is complete and ready to be fixed with your favorite fixative. If you enjoyed this video and you're ready to learn more, why not check out 4 video courses, live instruction, and over 6,000 minutes of art instruction, which include ebooks, live lessons, lesson plans, and more. Just click on the button to learn more now.